I think the biggest opportunity, and I don't know who's going to watch this, so hopefully you don't hate me for this, but I think real estate agents love the idea of real estate, but they don't like the fundamentals that it takes to succeed.
All right, let's kick this off. My name is Craig Zuber, Executive Business Coach, and I'm super excited to have Dustin Kimberly, the owner and CEO and Director of Sales, basically, for the Kimberley Real Estate Group, powered by Keller Williams, out of Atlanta, Georgia, with us today. He's also recognized for being in the top 30 in Georgia in 2020. And out of the 30 people, he was the youngest out of that group. Is that right, Dustin?
That's right. Yeah. Yep, that's right. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me out. Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Absolutely. All right. Well, Dustin, it's go time, man. So let's just get right down to it. You ready?
All right, let's rock, man.
All right. So you're the CEO, right? Like you're the owner of your business, and you've been doing this for the past 8 years now. Is that right?
That's right. And depending on which day, right, you ask me if I'm the owner, right? I would answer that differently each day. So, but yes, currently and today, I'm the CEO, the owner.
All right. So let's look at it from that lens. Give me an idea of the traits. Like, what traits do you have that make you really great at your role? Give me an idea.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm going to take a page out of Kristen Cole's book here, right? It's a lot of grit, right? The ability to not know what failure looks like. You know, I get up every day without a choice. My choice is that I can't fail, right? Success is the only way forward. I mean, agents can come and go, staff can come and go, leaders can come and go, right? But at the end of the day, you can't quit when your name's on the sign, right? And I think that's a big part of it, is that winning is the only option, right? Growth is the only option. And I think that's a big part of mine, is that no matter what happens, no matter, what failures we have, no matter what wins we have, right, we've got to keep moving forward. And I think that's what's been really impactful, is just driven results and holding our team accountable, right? We have a goal, we put it in place, right? We give it to the directors to go out and succeed around that. But it's also holding everyone highly accountable to that.
So Dustin, drive, motivation, passion, willingness to do whatever it takes. I hear the word win, like not winning is not an option, right? Like, so have you always been like that?
Yeah. So, I grew up playing competitive baseball. I played through college. For those baseball fans out there, right? I was a catcher, right? So like my job was to be the quarterback of the team. I was the only guy that could see every play every time, right? So I was just used to being the guy, and so it was my job to lead the team to victory. When we were down, it was my job to pick them up. When we were up, it was my job to keep them humble, right? It's like my job as the catcher, seeing the whole field, was that, I was the only one that could see everything. So it kind of made me responsible for everything. And with so many decisions to be made so fast, that's just kind of who I've always been.
That's great. So Dustin, how about, you've been in this industry for 8 years now, give us an idea of some tough lessons potentially that you've learned, growing pains, lessons throughout being inside of these roles.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, when you reflect back, right, you don't want to have regrets. Even Freddie Freeman said that when he left us and went to the Dodgers. R.I.P. Freddie Freeman. We still love him, right? But I think the big thing is, and I've said this to Andy, I've said this, when we hit Marie and they did an interview with us, what's unique about my group is that, I've been to 6 brokerages, right? And talk about not giving up. Every time I was at another brokerage, it was a 2-year cycle. And I kept moving and I kept moving. And a lot of people looked at me strangely, like, why are you continuing to move? But I never felt like I was in the place that fit my vision. I was the weird guy in the room, right? Like when I walk into a sales meeting at an independent and say, we're working on doing 1,000 transactions a year, they would look at me like I had 8 heads, And I would say my only advice is find the place where find the place where people take your vision and challenge you on why it's not big enough. If you have that vision, right? If you don't, I mean, listen, there's a lot of different ways to build a real estate company and a successful life by design based on how we each define it. If it's selling 100 homes a year and, making a 40-50% profit with a low staff and a low agent base, that's awesome. Do your thing, right? If it's 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, right, with a 20%, 25, do that, right? But be true to who you are and never give up on that. And don't be afraid. And I think I said it to you earlier, right? Don't be afraid to continue to move to those bigger rooms, even when they're wildly uncomfortable. I'd say that's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice.
So that's great advice, but what now tell me what the lesson is.
Don't give up. Right?
Is it not giving up? Is it being clear on who you need to be surrounded around? Because it took you a while to figure it out. Like, lesson for me would mean like, hey, there's a mistake that I made. Right. Like there's a big mistake that I made that I'm not.
So I can answer that, right? Be true to who you are, right? Like when I got into business, the lesson I learned is to be true to who you are. When I got into business, I was trained by people that wanted me to build an independent real estate team, right? Or I was trained that I should have a business that does 30 or 40 people. And I listened to that. And I think the lesson there is that don't be afraid, right, to go towards something that no one else is doing. And I started 10 years ago, and I know 20 years ago to find someone in the US that was doing 100 deals was a huge deal, and now we've got teams doing 2, 3, 4, 5. Mark Spain doing 10,000 transactions last year. I think my lesson there is start with the end in mind and work my way back. And I didn't do that. And I'm fighting my way out of it right now.
Appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah.
So how about now? What's the biggest challenge that you're currently facing, leading your organization or directing others, leading through others?
I mean, if I'm just going to be open and honest, I built the wrong company. I did, right? Like I built the wrong company that wasn't set up for scale. So now I'm having to rebuild the guts of the company to set it up for scale. Everything from directors to ISA teams to marketing mediums to lead levers, right? Like what I built, right? Great book. What got you here won't get you there. I'm living that moment right now. So I'd say that's one of my biggest challenges, right? Which is fundamentals and execution of scale. Our goal is to get to 1,000 transactions in the next 3, and we're going to do about 148 to 150 this year. So we got a big hill to climb. But with the right systems put in place, with those challenges being faced, we can get there.
So with the systems, with the people, now let's just say you're getting more and more clear. That's what it sounds like. You're getting more and more clear of who you need, the systems that you need in order to get you to where you're going. And now that
I'll give you
go ahead.
I'll give you a fundamental example, right? Like, what does the entire industry preach to agents? The most important source is what? Your database, right?
Your relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. But the question is, and up until recently, I thought that was the case. When you want to do 5,000 transactions, yeah, that can kind of be the case if you want it to take you 100 years, right? It's like your lead sources flop a little bit, right? And so when you talk about your database and your data bank and how big it needs to be, it's focusing on a lot more of those have not mets if you want to really expand and scale and managing those expenses to get there. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yep. It changes the game when you're thinking about how to sell 100 houses versus how to sell 10,000 houses.
Yeah, it's a completely different game.
Yeah. And the minute that you think bigger is the minute that you have to take yourself out of the equation, right? Yeah. You can keep yourself in it when you're doing a certain amount of transactions. The minute that you actually go to a different spot, you're no longer able to keep yourself in it at all.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And you have to do things differently. You have to make decisions differently. I mean, being a good friend, we talk all the time and we say, what's the one thing that would have helped us grow our companies where we wanted to have by now? And it said, if someone would have removed our real estate license in the first year, right? Someone would have gotten rid of our real estate license in the first year, we would have had no choice to do all the fundamentals that we need to do. But instead, we decided to keep selling houses because that was exactly what was going to get us to 1,000 transactions a year, you know?
So, all right, then you get clear, you got a vision, you have the end in mind, right? And now you're going back. Sounds like now you're going back, and are you having different conversations? Like, what exactly are you doing to overcome potentially the duct tape, or building the wrong business, or having the wrong model? What exactly are you doing?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with where your business comes from relative to scale. We've adopted a ISA team, right? We've had one for about 18 months. We sunsetted it for about 90 days in order for us to get our systems in place. We hired a director of lead generation, which has done wonders to our business. But I think it's really, it is pushing the things and people and systems out of our world that don't match up, right, to the next level of scale. So for example, we're not relying as heavily on agents' databases when we're recruiting. As long as they have a minimum of 100 people in their database and coming in, and they fit our criteria through career visioning, then they're a fit. Whereas before we were focusing on people that had been in Atlanta for an extended period of time, that had big databases. So who we're looking for is certainly changing, and how we're bringing that business to that agent is changing as well.
Great. And by doing that, well, not even by doing that, Dustin, what do you see? Like, things are changing out there just a bit, right? Conversations may be changing just a bit. Potentially skill level coming into place, having different conversations with people, getting to the depth and the core of like what's driving people to make decisions. Right. So with all that being said, what do you see as the largest opportunity over the next 12 months in real estate?
I think I put this in our email back and forth. And Andy and I have talked about this, right? My operating principle, Andy Peters, we've talked about this, and they just actually adopted their first one, which is a salary model. I think the biggest opportunity, and I don't know who's going to watch this, so hopefully you don't hate me for this, but I think real estate agents love the idea of real estate, but they don't like the fundamentals that it takes to succeed. And so I think moving forward with a shift, I think you're going to see a lot of agents that are going to be liking being in real estate, but they don't want the risk profile of being an independent contractor. So I think the salary model, I think we're going to be able to pick up a lot of really great talent over the next 12 to 18 months as teams, if we're willing to, cash flow manage and expense manage around a salary model. I think there's agents that have skills, and I think they're going to hit a bump in the road. They're not going to know how to handle the cash flow management. And I think they're going to be looking around for a life raft. And I think that life raft will be the salary model. So I'm a big fan of the salary model.
So we'll dive into that just for clarity purposes, right? Like the pros and the cons.
Yeah.
Pros may be, if you're actually having to write a check now, it changes the way that you look at things in regards to who you're bringing in, right?
Yeah.
Like, now you're probably going to start really looking at this like an investment versus
which is ironic. Like, how come it takes writing a check to see it as an investment when if you look at our balance sheet, right, and our expenses, it's the same thing. It's interesting. It's like, oh, well, aren't we already writing checks? Except now I don't know how we got in a business where everyone forgot they were in business.
It's interesting, right? It's just an interesting perspective on the lens that you look at when it's an investment versus if you don't, right? Well, it doesn't cost me anything, really. It doesn't, huh?
It does.
So the minute that it becomes an investment, all of a sudden you screen differently, you attract different people, right? Like you hold them at a higher level of accountability to getting results because it officially has become an investment.
Yes. Yep. I would 100%.
And I also think that there's a mistake made out there in the sense of, hey, if somebody's looking for safety, a little bit of safety or security or the consistency of that salary, that means, well, you're not thinking like a independent contractor. And if you think like an independent contractor, that means you're talented or that means you're not talented. And it's not the case, right? There's many talented people out there in a completely different industry that may be looking at that like, man, if I could just get that survival salary, it would give me the confidence to make the move into this industry.
Right.
There's benefits. And then, I mean, obviously there's benefits and there's a downside. If you don't hold them accountable, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, well, guess what? That investment becomes an expense really fast and then go the wrong way quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, I have friends in medical device sales, in the medical industry. I have, people I train with in the mornings with our trainers, right? They're in different types of medical sales and such like that. And even if it's financial product sales, right? And a lot of them do have bases, and they're not big bases. It's just something, right? But I think it's something. I think there's a certain, and I'm with you on that. I feel like there's too much out there around like, oh, you want a salary, you're not a great salesperson. Well, hold on a second, right? What if that small salary, right? What if that small nudge allows them to take that extra leap, that extra risk? And it doesn't have to be a huge number, but you'll also make up for it on the backside with the lower of commission splits, right? I mean, I tell my agents all the time, right? The bigger salary you want, the lower commission you get, right? I mean, it's a give take on what you're looking for, right? We can make that happen. But I'm with you on that. I think there's some really good talent that's going to be coming down the pipeline over the next 12 to 18 months that, maybe they just, and plus you and I both get it, is that how many agents have gotten in the market in the past 24 to 36 months and they have no idea what they're facing right
now. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I'll leave this piece here, and that is paying a salary isn't something new. All right. It's been inside of the economic model, inside of the MREA since it was written. It's just one of the models that people have chosen to avoid. And it changes the game when you start paying salary to listing agents, right? And also the level of accountability, what you can and can't do from an employment standpoint versus an independent contractor standpoint.
Yes.
So if you're going to win, which it sounds like you're committed to winning, right? Doing whatever it takes to win. You change how you look at these things. You start putting other things into place. I love it. And speaking of winning, what are you winning at right now?
Wartime CEO mentality, man. Like, me and my coach have been working on it for 60 days. Shift was coming. We've compressed our deadlines, our timelines. We're pulsing harder with our leadership team. There's nowhere to hide in our company right now. Like, if you want to hide from productivity, you better hide on a different team because it's not with ours. I'd say that's where we're really winning at the biggest level. And to be honest with you, I was nervous about the culture shift around that, but it has been amazing. We took 21 listings in the month of June, right? When everyone else is struggling, and our best month was like 14. We took 21 listings, and it was just, there's nowhere for anyone that wants to hide from a productivity level too high, right? We either produce and have a good time or we don't. And I think that's really where our culture is winning right now at a high level. And I have to thank Jeremy for that, because it took him about 6 months to beat me into submission around that.
So we're basically saying, being a wartime CEO or wartime leader, that it's basically just holding people accountable, getting people into action, setting a standard and holding them to it. Being non-negotiable and not letting people off the hook. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, which is interesting. Back to your salary model with the investment side, it's like it was always an investment. Now we just realize it is. I sit back and wonder over the last few years, if I would have had this level of accountability with our team, what numbers we would have put up and what growth we would have had. But yes, you're right. It's the way I explain it to people right now is that when you get to a moment where you don't want to ask the next question, that's where accountability starts, is asking that next question. There's nowhere to hide, and you're doing it from a place of love. It's not from a place of being a, butthole or, being a mean guy or a mean director of sales. It's, I care about your production. And if I don't ask this question and you don't succeed, I can't say I gave everything I had. So I think it's all about that next question.
Hey there, I'm Jeremy Herman, CEO and co-founder of ClarityNOW. Listening to this podcast means that you're committed to your career and to growing your business. You're the reason why we created ClarityNOW. You see, ClarityNOW is the real estate software designed to transform real estate agents into business owners. Now, being a great real estate agent is an entirely different skill set than being a great business owner. That's where ClarityNOW can help. ClarityNOW is powerful because some of the industry's top real estate coaches built it. We know what insights as coaches top performers need to grow their business. So, do you have a business plan based on your net profit goals? Do you know how you're performing against your quarterly goals? Do you generate a P&L each month? Do you have the best tools to help your team members hit their goals? Are you managing your company's pipeline and conversion reports? Do you have the data that you need at your fingertips to run a successful business? ClarityNOW can solve all these problems. Visit us at www.claritynowre.com and schedule a personalized tour to learn more. Mention this ad and we'll throw in 1 month for free. Congratulations on your success, and let's take your business to the next level together.
All right, Dustin. So knowing everything that you know now, you've been in this industry for the last 8 years. Let's look at prescriptive marching orders that you would give to someone who basically wants to be where you're at today in half the time. What would you have them do?
In half the time. That wasn't in the original question. So now my answer shifts a little bit. If I was to go back and start over, I would take out a $500,000 bank loan and I would hire all my leaders and then I would have them go out and build it for me. Just being honest, right? I mean, if you ask me that question, I'm just being honest with you, right? Is that, the building of the company has been nothing more than the learning lessons of me who didn't know anything from day one, when the reality is I could have gone out and bought the best talent based on how much I've paid for the mistakes I've made. I mean, I could have paid directors $500,000 a year for 2 years based on what the mistakes I've made and the money it's cost me. So that's what I would say, right? Is if you want to cut it in half, let your money do the work, right? That's what I would say. Hire great people.
So for clarification, you would figure out the 3 key people or the 1 key person or the 5 key people, whatever that is, and say, I'm going to go get the expert in each one of these arenas. I'm willing to go get a loan and make the investment into the people that actually know exactly what to do, how to do it, why to do it, and let them do it.
I've got 3 or 4 other successful companies that we did that. It's crazy. But yet the primary business, it's like, you just forget. You're like, I'm going to buy that. I'm going to invest that. We're going to hire those people and we're going to go back to playing golf. But on our real estate team, we're like, we blank, it's like, why didn't we do that here? So I would say that's probably it. Yep.
It's pretty significant. Thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah. Only took me 8 years to come up with that one.
That's why I just asked you. I didn't ask marching orders to do it in the same amount of time. So I just asked what you do to cut it in half.
Yeah.
So if you want to get there faster, you got to surround yourself with better people or experts in what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and when you look around the room, the talent's out there everywhere. There are team leaders, assistant team leaders at different brokerages outside of Keller Williams that want a new opportunity. And they have all of that knowledge locked up in their head, just know where to use it. And they're waiting on that phone call. They're waiting on someone to say, hey, here's an equity earnout opportunity. We're at X, take me to Y. Here's what this looks like. How would you like to do it for yourself than for other people? I mean, people will fly all over the country and move across the country for that. And it's just seeking that person out, right? Intentionally, I would say is probably my biggest advice.
Appreciate it, man. Love the wisdom, love the lessons. Appreciate you being willing to share. And with that being said, let's have some fun. Just give me an idea. Tell me a TV show or a movie series that you're currently streaming.
Loki, the Marvel series Loki.
Yeah, do you enjoy it?
Yeah. So my wife's one of her good friends from high school is the writer, designer, whatever. So my favorite movies are about space and aliens. So because it helps me. I know it's a weird thing. I don't know why. So if it flies through space,
yeah, help you think differently, huh? I love it. How about a business book? I mean, a business book that's made the biggest impact on your career.
Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger.
Ride of a Lifetime?
By Bob Iger. Yep.
Bob Iger. And what'd you get out of that?
When I was a kid, all I wanted to do was grow up and be a CEO, right? And I read constant books about CEOs. And I don't know, just watching how he handled the how he grew up, right, through media, and then watching how he handled the nightclub shootings. He was in the middle of launching Disney World China when he had to step away from the launch announcement, right? I mean, you got to consider it took him 10 years to get that thing going, right? You know, to address that there was a shooting in Orlando, and just, I don't know, just the peace that he had to handle such a big crisis in the middle of such a big win for him. I just got a lot of respect for the guy.
Great. Well, then, is there a specific CEO that you study as well? Business owner, CEO, like one that stands out to you?
That's a good question. I mean, Bob's definitely one of them. I'm a big fan of Ed Sebastian with Delta. You know, I think he's done a great job for what they needed to turn that company around to get visibility to the customer. A lot of our marketing messages and videos are actually doubled after the Delta videos. So I would say Ed Sebastian for sure.
Okay. How about if you can go back to you're 20 years old? What advice would you give to yourself?
Find the biggest, baddest ass person you can find and go work for them. Yeah, that's it. Find the biggest and most badass person that's doing what you want to do and do whatever you have to get in the room. I don't care if you're shining their shoes. I don't care if you're getting their laundry. I do not care. And do not look at the money, because the amount of learning and education that is humanly possible to be in that room is worth billions of dollars, right? It's like find whoever it is and just get in the room and do whatever you have to. I don't care if you're their driver, their valet. I don't care, right? Cut their grass if you have to, but just get in the room.
That's great. And if you could pick one other profession besides real estate, Dustin, what would it be?
My second career will be investment banking. Yeah, right. No, I've definitely thought of this one for sure.
Investment banker instead of real estate.
Yep. Instead of brokering houses, we'll be brokering multi-billion-dollar companies.
All right. I love it. All right, Dustin. Sincerely appreciate your time, man. Loved having you here. Thanks for being vulnerable. Thanks for being transparent. Thanks for making this Go Time series phenomenal. Take care, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right.